ಬನ್ನಿ ಬನ್ನಿ ಬನ್ನಿ. ಈಗ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಗೀತೆ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ಲಲಿತ ಕಲಾ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಂದ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಎದ್ದು ನಿಲ್ಲಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा। जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎದ್ದು ನಿಲ್ಲಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ. ಈಗ ನಾಡಗೀತೆ.
जय भारत जननी तनुजाते जय हे कर्नाटक माते। जय सुंदर नदी वनಗಳ ನಾಡೆ जय हे रस ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ। जय भारत जननीಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜನನಿಯ ಜೋಗುಳ ವೇದದ ಘೋಷ ಜನನಿಗೆ ಜೀವವು ನಿನ್ನಾವೇಶ। ಹಸುರಿನ ಗಿರಿಗಳ ಸಾಲೆ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಕೊರಳಿನ ಮಾಲೆ ಕಪಿಲ ಪತಂಜಲ ಗೌತಮ ಜಿನನುತ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ। ಸರ್ವ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಶಾಂತಿಯ ತೋಟ ರಸಿಕರ ಕಂಗಳ ಸೆಳೆಯುವ ನೋಟ ಹಿಂದೂ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನ ಪಾರಸಿಕ ಜೈನರು ಧ್ಯಾನ ಜನಕನ ಹೋಲುವ ದೊರೆಗಳ ಧಾಮ ಗಾಯಕ ವೈಣಿಕರ ರಾಮ। ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ ಕುಣಿದಾಡುವ ಗೇಹ ಕನ್ನಡ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೇಹ। ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ। ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ। ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ। ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ। ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ।
ಈಗ ಲಲಿತ ಕಲಾ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಯರು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಯನ್ನ ನೆರವೇರಿಸಿಕೊಡಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಕಾಯೌ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೌರಿ ಕರುಣಾಲಹರಿ ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ಕಾಯೌ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೌರಿ ಕರುಣಾಲಹರಿ ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ವೈಮಾನಿಕ ಭಾಮಾಚಿತ ಕೋಮಲ ಕರಪಾದೆ ಶ್ರೀಮಾನ್ವಿತ ಭೂಮಾಸ್ಪದೆ ಕಾಮಿತ ಫಲದೆ. ವೈಮಾನಿಕ ಭಾಮಾರ್ಚಿತ ಕೋಮಲ ಕರಪಾದೆ ಶ್ರೀಮಾನ್ವಿತ ಭೂಮಾಸ್ಪದೆ ಕಾಮಿತ ಫಲದೆ. ಕಾಯೌ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೌರಿ ಕರುಣಾಲಹರಿ ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ಶುಂಭಾದಿ ಮದಾಂಬೋ ನಿಧಿ ಕುಂಭಜ ನಿಭದೇವಿ ಜಂಬಾಹಿತ ಸಂಭಾವಿತ ಶಾಂಭವಿ ಶುಭವಿ. ಶುಂಭಾದಿ ಮದಾಂಬೋ ನಿಧಿ ಕುಂಭಜ ನಿಭದೇವಿ ಜಂಬಾಹಿತ ಸಂಭಾವಿತ ಶಾಂಭವಿ ಶುಭವಿ. ಕಾಯೌ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೌರಿ ಕರುಣಾಲಹರಿ ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ಶ್ರೀ ಜಯ ಚಾಮುಂಡಿಗೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಜಯ ಚಾಮೇಂದ್ರ ನಾಮಾಂಕಿತ ಭೂಮೀಂದ್ರ ಲಲಾಮನ ಮುದದೆ. ಶ್ರೀ ಜಯ ಚಾಮುಂಡಿಗೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಜಯ ಚಾಮೇಂದ್ರ ನಾಮಾಂಕಿತ ಭೂಮೀಂದ್ರ ಲಲಾಮನ ಮುದದೆ. ಕಾಯೌ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೌರಿ ಕರುಣಾಲಹರಿ ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ. ತೋಯ ಜಾಕ್ಷಿ ಶಂಕರೇಶ್ವರಿ.
ಈಗ ದೀಪ ಬೆಳಗುವ ಮೂಲಕ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ. I request all the dignitaries and the dais to inaugurate the function by lighting the lamp.
शत्रुबुद्धि विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते. दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते. दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः. दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः. दीपो भस्तु मे पापम् संध्यादीप नमोस्तुते. ओ दीप ब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां सकुरव्ययः. ओ दीप ब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं
ದೀಪ ಬೆಳಗುವುದರ ಮೂಲಕ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪುಷ್ಪಾರ್ಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಣ್ಯರಿಗೂ ವಂದನೆಗಳು. ಒಂದು ನಾಡು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ, ಆರ್ಥಿಕವಾಗಿ, ಆಡಳಿತಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ವಿಕಾಸ ಹೊಂದಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಗಳ ಪಾತ್ರ ದೊಡ್ಡದು. As the renowned professor of history and historian Dr. Sheikh Ali says, it is a matter of great pride that the University of Mysore has attempted to achieve all these objectives. Its 100 summers and springs have been exceedingly fruitful. Conceived with the intention of molding our people into a civilized society, it has done much to make our state a model state. It has contributed to the realms of arts, literature, philosophy, science, technology, and culture. It has added to the wealth of our land by lending our children a superior mind. It has gifted its alumni to the world who have brought laurels to their alma mater. Such an institution was brought into existence by the efforts of two mighty minds. One was of the Maharaja Nalvadi Krishnaraju Wadiyar Bahadur, and the other was of his brilliant Diwan, Sir M. Vishweshwaraya. The sublimity of the soul of the Maharaja acted as a catalytic agent to excite the fertile mind of the Diwan to establish the first university in a princely state. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor G. Hemant Kumar, recalls such redoubtable names as Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Dr. C.R. Reddy, Dr. N.S. Subbarao, Professor B.M. Srikanthaya, Sri A.R. Wadia, M.V. Gopal Swami, Professor M.E. Hiriyanna, Poet Laureate Kuvempu, and a host of other luminaries associated with our great institution. Professor Hemant Kumar, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, is a product of our university, subsequently became a faculty member and professor, assumed so many academic responsibilities, which enabled him to garner such experience to serve very ably as the Vice Chancellor. There was a temporary setback for nearly 2 years due to COVID pandemic, but still he has contributed for the forward march of our university. National Education Policy 2020 was first introduced in our university ahead of the rest. This is largely due to the initiative and lead given by our Vice Chancellor. Undoubtedly, the University School of Engineering is another feather in his cap. It did not happen just like that. It will take some time for us to realize his hard work and purposive action, keeping in mind the welfare of his alma mater. Now, I call upon the Honorable Vice Chancellor to deliver the welcome address and introduce the guests to the audience.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನಾ ದಿನದ ಶುಭಕಾಮನೆಗಳು. ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನಾ ದಿನದ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನ ನೀಡಲು ಆಗಮಿಸಿರುವಂತಹ ತಮಿಳುನಾಡಿನ ಘನತೆವೆತ್ತ ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರಾದ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಶ್ರೀ R.N. ರವಿರವರೇ, ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಾದ ಮೈಸೂರು ಸಂಸ್ಥಾನದ ರಾಜವಂಶಸ್ಥರಾದ ಶ್ರೀ ಯದುವೀರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣದತ್ತ ಚಾಮರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ರವರೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಶಿವಪ್ಪರವರೇ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇ, ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮಂಡಳಿ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇ, ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾನಿಟರಿಂಗ್ ಎವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ನ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇ, ಎಲ್ಲ ನಿಕಾಯದ ಡೀನ್ಗಳೇ, ಆಹ್ವಾನಿತರೇ, ವಿಶ್ರಾಂತ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳೇ, ಬೋಧಕೇತರ ವೃಂದದವರೇ ಹಾಗೂ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮ ಮಿತ್ರರೇ, ಇಂದು ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಂಭ್ರಮದ ದಿನ. ಕಾರಣ ಶ್ರೀಮಾನ್ ಮಹಾರಾಜ ಶ್ರೀ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯವನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಿ ಇಂದಿಗೆ 106 ವರ್ಷಗಳು ಕಳೆದಿವೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯವನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಿದ ಶ್ರೀಮನ್ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ನಾಡಿನ ಸರ್ವತೋಮುಖ ಏಳಿಗೆಗಾಗಿ ದೂರದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ತ್ರಿಕರಣ ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ದುಡಿದ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ದೊರೆಗಳು. ಈ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಗಾಂಧಿಯವರು ನಾಲ್ವಡಿಯವರನ್ನ ರಾಜ ಋಷಿ ಅಂತ ಮುಕ್ತ ಕಂಠದಿಂದ ಹೊಗಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾಲ್ವಡಿಯವರು ಏಕಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ರಾಜರು ಮತ್ತು ಋಷಿಗಳು ಸಹ ಹೌದು. ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ಇಟ್ಟ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯು ನಾಡಿನ ಪ್ರಗತಿಯ ಮಹತ್ವದ ಮೈಲಿಗಲ್ಲಾಗಿರುವುದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅರಿತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ, ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ, ಕೃಷಿ, ಕೈಗಾರಿಕೆ, ಕ್ರೀಡೆ ಹೀಗೆ 10 ಹಲವು ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಸಾಧಿಸಿದವರು ನಮ್ಮ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು. ಒಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮೈಸೂರು ಸಂಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಮಾದರಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾನವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕೆಂಬುವ ಕನಸು ನನಸಾಯಿತು. ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ಪ್ರಜಾವಾತ್ಸಲ್ಯದ ಕುರುಹಾಗಿ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯವನ್ನ ಜುಲೈ 27, 1916 ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಲು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರ ದೂರದೃಷ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನು ಅನುಷ್ಠಾನಕ್ಕೆ ತಂದವರು ಅಂದಿನ ದಿವಾನರಾಗಿದ್ದ ತಂತ್ರ ಋಷಿ ಸರ್ ಎಂ ವಿಶ್ವೇಶ್ವರಯ್ಯನವರು. ಮದ್ರಾಸ್ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ಒಪ್ಪಿದರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಕ್ಕೆ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಬಹುದು ಎಂಬ ಷರತ್ತನ್ನು ವಿಧಿಸಿದ ಸಂದರ್ಭ ಅದು. ಉದಕ ಮಂಡಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಜರುಗಿದ ನಿರ್ಣಾಯಕವಾದ ಸಿಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಸಭೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸದಸ್ಯರು ಈ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ತೀವ್ರವಾಗಿ ವಿರೋಧಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಸರ್ ಎಂಇ ಅವರನ್ನ ಮನವೊಲಿಸಿ ಸಫಲರಾಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಕ್ಟೋಬರ್ 12, 1916 ಶ್ರೀಮನ್ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ಪ್ರಪ್ರಥಮ ಸೆನೆಟ್ ಸಭೆಯನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಭಾಷಣವನ್ನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ಭಾಷಣದ 1-2 ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ತರಲು ಇಚ್ಛಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. ನಾಲ್ವಡಿಯವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯವನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಬೇಕೆಂಬ ಪ್ರಜೆಗಳ ಬಹುದಿನದ ಬಯಕೆ ಈಡೇರಿರುವುದು ಚರಿತ್ರಾರ್ಹವಾದ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ ಅಂತ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದು ಕೇವಲ ಮೈಸೂರು ಪ್ರಾಂತ್ಯದ ಅಗತ್ಯವನ್ನಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇಡೀ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಬೌದ್ಧಿಕ ಹಾಗೂ ಐಹಿಕ ಪ್ರಗತಿಗೆ ಕಾರಣವಾಗುವುದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂದೇಹವಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಔಪಚಾರಿಕ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಗೆ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ಪಡೆದು ಸಾಂಪ್ರದಾಯಿಕವಾಗಿ ಕಲಿಯಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗದ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶಾಲ ಜನಸ್ತೋಮದ ವಿದ್ಯೆಯ ಮಟ್ಟವನ್ನು ಉತ್ತಮಪಡಿಸುವುದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ಶ್ರಮಿಸುವುದಾಗಿ ನಾನು ನಂಬಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಎಂದು ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಮುಂದುವರಿದು ಶ್ರೀಮನ್ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾದ ಆದರ್ಶವನ್ನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ತಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಬೆಳೆಯಬೇಕು ಎಂದು ತಿಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಶ್ರೀಮನ್ ಮಹಾರಾಜರ ಕಳಕಳಿಯ ಈ ನುಡಿಗಳು ಸದಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಾಯಿಯಾಗಿವೆ ಎಂದು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬಯಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಸಣ್ಣ ತೊರೆಯಾಗಿ ಉದ್ಭವವಾದ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ದಶಕಗಳು ಉರುಳಿದಂತೆ ಹಿಗ್ಗುತ್ತಾ ಹೋಗಿ ಇಂದು ವಿಶಾಲವಾದ ನದಿಯಾಗಿ ಹರಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಈ ಪ್ರಗತಿಗೆ ಕಾರಣರಾದ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಹಿರಿಯರನ್ನ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ತಜ್ಞರನ್ನ ನಾನು ಇಂದು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಗೌರವದಿಂದ ಮತ್ತು ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯಿಂದ ನೆನೆಯುತ್ತೇನೆ. ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮತ್ತು ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮಾನದಂಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಉನ್ನತ ಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನು ಗಳಿಸುತ್ತಲೇ ಬಂದಿರುವ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಲು ಸರ್ವದಾ ಅರ್ಹತೆಯನ್ನು ಪಡೆದಿದೆ. ಅದು ಆದಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತವಾಗಲಿ ಎಂದು ನಾನು ಆಶಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to introduce the president of today's function and also speaker on this auspicious occasion of Foundation Day of our university. Shri Ravindra Narayan Ravi is an ex-IPS officer from 1976 batch. He is a former bureaucrat serving as a current 15th governor of Tamil Nadu. Shri Ravi served as 18th governor of Nagaland from 1st August 2019 to 9th September 2021. And governor of Meghalaya from 18th December 19 to 26th January 20. It speaks volume of the Honorable Governor's administration acumen that he has endeared himself to the people of Northeast of our land. In 2014, he was appointed as the chairman of Joint Intelligence Committee. He was appointed as Deputy National Security Advisor of India on 5th October 2018. And also he has served as interlocutor for the talks between NSCM-1M and Government of India from 2014 to 2021. Nagaland peace accord between the Nagas and India government was achieved during his period in August 2015. It is a major breakthrough for achieving the peace in the region since 1997 ceasefire agreement. As the governor of Tamil Nadu since 9 September 2021, Shri Ravi has guided highly politically charged state with equanimity and also impartiality. His Excellency's experience in Nagaland and Meghalaya was stood with him in great stead to provide the guidance and the direction to the Tamil Nadu government in navigating through difficult political situations. The governor, being the chancellor, is aware of the issues and the challenges of higher education. Therefore, we thought he is the ideal person to be the guest speaker for the years of Foundation Day. We are indeedly grateful to Sri Ravi sir for accommodating this program at midst of his busy schedule to preside as well as to deliver the Foundation Day lecture. Sir, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you on this occasion. I request my registrar to hand over the bucket. Shri Yaduvir Krishnadatta Chamaraja Odayar. Shri Yaduvir Krishnadatta Chamaraja Odayar is the chief guest, is the grandson of Shri Jai Chamarajendra Odayar, last ruler of the Mysore state during the British Raj in India. Odayar was installed as Maharaja of Mysore in 2015. Hence, he is the 27th head of the erstwhile royal family of the Kingdom of Mysore. He married Trachika Kumari, erstwhile from Dungarpur royal family from Rajasthan, and couple has 5-year-old son, Adivir Narasimharaja Odayar. The distinction of Sri Yaduvir Odayar is that he is aware of the great rule of Odayar dynasty and has played in shaping the destiny of the peoples of Karnataka. Hence, he is studying the past with a keen interest so that he can play a pivotal role in all-round well-being development of our state. We are fortunate to have him among us today, especially in the view of the fact his illustrious forefathers have caused the birth of our university, which has carved the niche of among the premier universities in our country. Sir, you are addressing the audience day in and day out, reciprocating love and affection of our people who have undiminished reverence towards the Mysore rulers. It is a pleasure to welcome you, sir, for this today's event. I welcome all the invitees, dignitaries, members of the syndicate, academic council, and members of PMEB board, teaching and non-teaching staff, and all the members of the media. Once again, I greet you all a happy, auspicious occasion of Foundation Day of our university. We look forward to very scintillating lecture by Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, Shri Ravindra Narayan Ravi. Thanking you all.
Thank you, sir. The scion of Mysore royal family is a highly educated person. His affable qualities have already endeared him to the people of Mysore and Karnataka. Especially the rural masses are an embodiment of gratitude to the great Maharajas of Mysore. They are seeing the regality and nobility of the erstwhile kings in Sri Yaduvir Odayar. Looking at the people's expectations and adoration, anybody in Sri Yaduvir Odayar's position would take a plunge into public life sooner than later. For now, Sri Odayar is keeping his cards close to his chest. We, his well-wishers and admirers, are keeping our fingers crossed. We are eagerly looking forward to his speech on this Foundation Day of our university. Over to Sri Yaduvir Odayar.
ಸಭೆಗೆ ನನ್ನ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸುತ್ತಾ ತಮಿಳುನಾಡಿನ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರಾದ ಶ್ರೀ ಆರ್ ಎನ್ ರವಿ ಅವರೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಕುಲಪತಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಜಿ ಹೇಮಂತ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರೇ, ಕುಲಸಚಿವರಾದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಆರ್ ಶಿವಪ್ಪ ಅವರೇ, ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಿರೂಪಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸಿ ನಾಗಣ್ಣ ಅವರೇ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಂಡಿಕೇಟಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇ, ಮುಂಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಣ್ಯರೇ, ಹಿರಿಯರೇ, ಮಹನೀಯರೇ, ಮಹಿಳೆಯರೇ ಮತ್ತು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಇಲಾಖೆಯ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳೇ, ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದವರೇ, ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನಾ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆಯ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸುವುದು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಸಂತೋಷದ ವಿಷಯ. ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆಯ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ, ನಾವು ಈ ಮೈಸೂರು ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ದಿನವನ್ನು ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರುವ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನು ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಶುರುವಾಗಿದ್ದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೇ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಬೀಜ ನೆಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಯಾರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರ ತಾತ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಮ್ಮಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ರಾಜಾಸ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಹಿಂಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. ಅದು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಬೀಜ ನೆಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹಿಂದುಳಿದವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕೂಲಿಂಗಿನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ಬೆಳೀತಾ 10ನೇ ಚಾಮರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲೂ ಬೆಳೆದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಂತರ ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರಿನವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ನು ಉತ್ತಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಮಡ್ರಾಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ಇತ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಾಜ್ಯರು ನಡೀತಾ ಇರೋ ಆಡಳಿತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದೇ ರೀತಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳು ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೈಸೂರಿನ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಹಿಂದಿನಿಂದನೂ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಸೌಲಭ್ಯಗಳು ಇರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಈ ಮೈಸೂರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದುವರಿದಿದ್ದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಮೈಸೂರು ಮಾದರಿ ಮೈಸೂರು ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಮೈಸೂರಿನ ಸುವರ್ಣ ಯುಗ ಆ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಬೀಜ ನೆಟ್ಟಿರೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ. ಸೊ ಈ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಒಂದು ರೋಲ್, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಪಾತ್ರ ಇರೋದು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದದ್ದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ಸುವರ್ಣ ಯುಗ್ನ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ, ಈ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸುವರ್ಣ ಯುಗ್ನ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಪಾತ್ರ ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳು, ಉಪಕುಲಪತಿಗಳು ಮಾಡಿರುವ ಸೇವೆ ಬಹಳ ಶ್ಲಾಘನೀಯದು. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸದಾ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮೈಸೂರಿಗೆ ಆ ಕೊಡುಗೆ ಅಪಾರವಾದದ್ದು. ಸದಾ ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸುವುದು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಸಂತೋಷದ ವಿಷಯ. It is indeed our honor to share the dais with Shri R.N. Ravi, the Governor of Tamil Nadu. So it is will be a coincidence today that my revered grandfather, Shri Jayachamraj Vadea, His Highness, was also the Governor of Tamil Nadu from 60 to 63. And after he was first, of course, Raj Pramukh of Mysore, then Governor of Mysore, and then the Governor of then Madras State. So it is a wonderful coincidence today that I'm sharing the dais with you. It is an honor to have you at our Mysore University. And Nanu Muttame, I'd like to congratulate, of course, Professor Hemant Kumar, the syndicate, and all the members of Mysore University for continuing that legacy of Mysore in being the first at building our own brand. From, I've heard now, the implementation of NEP to the School of Engineering to many other firsts. You're continuing that legacy of being first at everything, which is very laudable, and my many congratulations to you all. I won't speak much more. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಒಂದು 2 ಮಾತು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಜೈ ಹಿಂದ್, ಜೈ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ.
ಮಾನ್ಯ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳು ಹೇಳಿದ ಹಾಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿನವೂ ಯದುವೀರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣದತ್ತ ಚಾಮರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಒಂದಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಸಭೆ ಸಮಾರಂಭಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸ್ತಾ ಆ ಬಂಧುಗಳ ಸಹೃದಯರ ಹೃದಯವನ್ನ ಗೆಲ್ತಾ ಮುಂದುವರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹತ್ತಿರವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸಭೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸುವ ಜನರ ಹರ್ಷೋದ್ಗಾರನೇ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ಮುತ್ತಿನಂತ 2 ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನ ಅವ್ರು ಆಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಸದಾ ಚಿರಸ್ಥಾಯಿಯಾಗಿ ಉಳಿಯುತ್ತವೆ. There were hardly a few universities in the whole of the country when our university was born. Quite strangely, those who ran the affairs of the Madras University at that time, as recalled by our Vice Chancellor, did not find it necessary for the starting of one more university in the neighboring state. But it was the persuasive power of Sir Vishweswaraya which made them ascend to a new center of higher learning in Mysore. He convinced those who opposed that a separate university was needed to meet the special requirements of Mysore state. He assumed that the standards would be, assured them that the standards would be maintained. It is an occasion to recall why Madras University opposed the commencement of one more university. They were basically worried about the maintaining of standard and the necessary infrastructure. So much water has run down the bridge, and the Honorable Governor is aware of the multiplication of the higher education centers in our country in the 21st century. At present, the goal is to have a university in every district. Now, I request the Honorable Governor, Shri R.N. Ravi, to deliver the Foundation Day speech.
Most respected Sri Yaduvir Krishnadatta Chamaraj Wadiyar, scion of the Mysore royal family, respected Professor G. Hemant Kumar, Vice Chancellor of this prestigious university, members of syndicate, faculty members, students, gracious ladies and gentlemen, Ellarigu Namaskaram. At the outset, I'd like to thank Professor Hemant Kumar for giving me this opportunity to be part of this celebration of this prestigious university on its foundation day. For me, it's a matter of huge delight to be with the people who are in the pursuit of knowledge, who are in the pursuit of a scholarship. And that too at an institution which has a very, very rich history behind it. This is a foundation day, and it's only appropriate that we pay our tribute, heartfelt tribute and respect to the one who founded this institute, who laid the foundation. His Highness, Sri Krishnaraj Wadiyar, we often say that, yes, this is the first university outside the British India. But under what circumstances this university was built, was created? What was the urge for the Maharaja to do that? If we appreciate that part, then it becomes all the more relevant to celebrate the day and to feel the significance of the person who created this institution. This institution was created in 1916 in the teeth of opposition from the British government. What was Madras University? And that was the time when the British were full throttle destroying the Indian education system, entire Indian system, killing the sense of pride among Indians. And at the time, there was also a backlash, a sense of frustration among the people of India, frustration over the continued colonization, being subjected to foreign rule, and they were witnessing the widespread annihilation of our entire indigenous system of education, system related to our culture, art, everything. Now, in that backdrop, responding to the anguish, the popular anguish the then Maharaja conceived the idea of building a center of higher learning in Mysore outside the British India, which, though by virtue of being affiliated for degree sake to Madras University, would have some elements of Indian education. In universities run by the British government, there was nothing Indian about it. They all talked about European history, European philosophy, European political ideology, European science, European mathematics. Of course, those sciences were here also. I'm not getting into that. But India was projected in very, very poor light. A sense of inferiority complex was being injected from all round, that everything in India was despicable, bad. So, navigating the fine balance of conforming to the needs and essential needs of the university, of the British government, that they had to these courses, inducting something about India, Indian culture, Indian spirituality, Indian art and music. All those things keeping in mind, Maharaja established this institution. So this institution was among the pioneers of the institutions of higher learning to preserve our Indian heritage. It is not just an old university, it is a university with a very pithy and poignant history behind it. And on this occasion, we like to pay our heartfelt gratitude to Maharaja who established this. Of course, Sir Visvesvaraya worked hard. He knew he was smart enough to navigate the system, because every bureaucracy, every system, it needs the smart people to negotiate. He did that, and we are thankful to him as well. Friends, we know that knowledge is a crucial element of growth, development, be it of individual, be it of a society, be it of a country. Knowledge is the core. But a related question is, what kind of knowledge? Because if the knowledge is not of the right kind, then we would land up in a situation where we have landed up today. When the British left, independent India inherited a legacy of British education system, a colonial education system. They had laid down curriculum, by and large, whether it is humanities, call it social sciences, political science, history, philosophy, literature. These were all heavily infused with European content. And we continued with that because we believed that European system was the best system. When I say European, it is the British essentially. Over the time, there have been certain attempt to reform the system. Education policies came up at least twice before the one which came up to 2 years back in 2020. One was in 60s, another was in 80s. But both these systems, both these policies to bring about certain changes in the education system was essentially reformatory. When we say reform, the underlying belief is perhaps The fundamentals are okay. It needs certain corrections here and there, certain addition, certain subtraction, and it will go on. But the root, the fundamentals remain the same. As a result, after over 6.5 decades, nearly 7 decades, we have a very large number of people who are educated, graduates, postgraduates, PhD holders. But at the same time, we also have the largest number of people who are unemployed. Because our institutions churned out degrees in thousands and thousands and lakhs. Our degree holders, be it graduate, postgraduate, and even PhDs, after getting the degrees, they were at the mercy of someone to give them a job. Preparing students of India, giving them degree for job was the colonial policy. One wonders, a person who has acquired the knowledge, who has got the degree, how come this person, after having got the degree, becomes such a pathetic piece of human being that he keeps moving for seeking job? Lack of confidence, self-confidence, because the knowledge imparted, if we call it knowledge, I will call it a bunch of information, was something which was not of much help to the people, was not much of help to the society, and as a result, there was not much demand. There is not much demand for that kind of degree, that kind of a knowledge. So while we have hundreds and thousands of degree holders, we have a paucity of people who have the confidence of not being a seeker, but a giver, job giver. Now this was the fundamental malady of pathology of our education system. But we didn't think over it. We thought that chalta rahe. The system which has been continuing is okay. You bring about some minor changes here and there, and you call it produce a report. That becomes a policy document. What what was wrong with the colonial system of education was that it was designed for a separate purpose. It was designed for producing the servants for this company and then for the government. And this system which they created to the beginning of 19th century, beginning Peel's Act 1802, was with a very specific purpose, not only to produce students for being the servants of the company and then servants of the government, British government, but something more than that. And I would urge, standing before a galaxy of people who are in pursuit of knowledge, scholarship. Some are accomplished, highly accomplished. Some are in the process of growth. I would urge you to kindly look into the archives and see how our system was before this colonization began. And this education system that we inherited, what was the genesis? And this genesis that they laid was over what was the grave of our indigenous system of education. You know, the British came in the year 1600 for trading East India Company. And for 150 years, they traded. They traded with 3 centers, Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. But in 1750s, for the first time, they tasted the power of capturing a territory. In the decade of 1750s, when Bengal, Robert Clive, he took over Bengal, a large territory. Then the issue was how to administer the territory, because it was a trading company. They knew how to trade. Clive wrote a letter to their board of the company, stating that, look, ours is a trading company. We are good at trading. We do not know elements of administration. So administering the territory should be the responsibility of the government. Let British government take over the administration part of it, and we will continue doing the trading. The letter of Robert Clive was studied, widely debated. Whether British government should take over or not. If they take over, should they take over? You know, at the time, the advisor to the British government on colonial affairs was Adam Ferguson, Professor Adam Ferguson, who was a professor of theology in Edinburgh University. I'm quoting all these names primarily because I know that I'm in the midst of a scholarship and scholars. Professor Adam Ferguson, a professor of theology of Edinburgh, one of the three centers of learning in UK, Oxford, Cambridge, and Edinburgh. Matter was referred to him for advice. At the time, they had colonized America. Could they replicate that experience in India? The question was, since they had the experience of colonizing a continent, should that experience or experiment be replicated in India? And then Adam Ferguson wrote a detailed report. He says, no, we cannot replicate that experiment in India. Primarily the reason, what they did in America, they killed the indigenous people, mass annihilation. Not just by gun, but through disease, through pestilence. They distributed blankets infected with a smallpox in the villages, the natives' villages. These are all on record, documented fact. And millions of natives died. They captured the land, they settled over the land, and they made this land as their own. This is the history of colonization of America. Now, could that experiment be replicated in India? Adam Ferguson said, no, you cannot. Why? Number one, India is a very large population, number one. But that's not enough. That's not all. India is a highly evolved society. They were not like natives, indigenous people of North America. Indian society was highly evolved. And when I say highly evolved, what does it mean? I will give you just one or two. In 1750, the volume of industrial production of India and China together accounted for 73% of the global industrial production. 73% of the global industrial production was from India and China. It was more than half of it. There was no America, there was no Europe. Even the East India Company, which was trading, balance of trade was in favor of India because we were exporting far more than we were importing. Some years later, another instance, just to buttress my point. The British, Sheffield was the largest iron and steel company in Europe. It was a British company. They sent 1,000 metric ton of iron to Madras port. And they could not sell the iron, not even 1 metric ton. And when the iron, British iron could not be sold in India, in Madras presidency, the question was asked, why? And then governor of Madras presidency, his letter, all these are in archives, even in Madras archives, says Indians, people here will not buy your iron. People here will not buy your iron because manufacturing iron is a cottage industry in India. There were small furnaces producing 0.5 metric ton a week for local consumption, local needs. And put together, when they did the survey, the 3 presidencies together, there were more than 10,000 smelting and furnace in India producing iron. Ramnath Peta, in then Madras presidency, today it is in Andhra Pradesh, was the largest smelting furnace for iron making in the whole country. So they said, the governor said, here people will not buy your iron because iron is produced locally and there is transportation cost unnecessary. That will not, I mean, since it is available next door, why should they get from Madras port? And not only that, the third reason was the iron produced here is of a better quality than Sheffield. Sheffield people, they sent their team, they studied the technology, the know-how, and then they killed the British killed the industry here. One after another, they killed. So when Ferguson said that India was an evolved society, it would not be possible to replicate the experiment of North America, then what should be how should British deal with this colony, emerging colony? Then he gave 2 advices. Number 1, aim of the British should be to transfer as much wealth as India and as speedily as possible. Transfer of as much wealth as speedily as possible should be the core objective of the British. And since all these transfers will require a lot of manipulation of rules, regulations, procedures, if the British government takes over, the servant of the crown would be bound by the conduct rule and they will raise objections. As we know, if anything you go, you have, bureaucracy raising objections. The servant of the crown would not let that happen. So let this remain with the company, because employees of the company can bend or break the rules and we can look the other way. There is no problem. So it should remain with the company. That is one. And the second advice was, since how to make this British Empire, which they were building, most enduring. He will transfer the wealth as speedily as possible, as much as speedily. But the process of control, the empire should be enduring so that you continue doing it for the longest possible period. And how to make the empire enduring. And for that, the advice was kill the education system. Kill the education system, kill the sense of pride, self-pride among the Indians. It was in that background that then the British started, they commissioned a study, what was the indigenous system of education in India. In all the three presidencies, they commissioned a study. Here, the governor Madras presidency, he commissioned. He wrote to all there were 21 districts in Madras presidency at the time. He asked all the collectors to give him a report, detailed report on the education system, indigenous education system in India. Presidency of Bombay commissioned Prendergast, who was a council member, council of the governor. He undertook the study. Madras presidency appointed one William Adam, not Adam Ferguson. This William Adam was a missionary who had been working in India for some time in the Bengal area, in the eastern part of the country. He was commissioned to and read the report of all the three, and he will get to know. Unfortunately, we have been persuaded to believe that things were all bad, and we don't look into that. Read the report. What is relevant here is Madras presidency among this audience, because we are all part of the Madras presidency, these whole 5 states. Some of the district collectors gave the report elaborate. Some of the district collectors were dismissive, so they short report. Report of district collector Campbell was of Bellary, extensive. Courses taught, number of books. Rajamundry collector is all the wider, detailed. Books taught, subjects taught. Students, number of students, detailed report. The subjects taught in our schools and then in higher centers of higher learning, where in the schools they used to, besides teaching literacy, numeracy, mathematics, something about our mythology, history. In higher centers, they used to teach literature of a higher order. Books which were being taught were Kalidas, Raghuvansam, Kumar Sambhavam, Meghadoot Sandesh. All these books are written. Vedas, 3 Vedas have been mentioned. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sam. Is all recorded. Bhagavat. Astronomy. Of course, mathematics. Music, art. Wide range of subjects. One of the district collector gives a list of the books. There were 59 books, all of very, very high standards. That was the indigenous education system. When we say that our economy was so prosperous that we were the largest producer of industrial goods, it was because our society was capable of doing that. There was no large scale, humongous industry as we see today, but these were all at a small levels. Even today, micro, small, and medium industries account for almost more than 80 to 85% of our employment. Their contribution to our GDP is far, far more than what we have through the larger industries. So India at that point of time was prosperous through indigenous system of education, which has a decentralized system of production. So they started choking the institutions by the source of fund. The source of fund for these institutions were community assets, mainly community land. Those lands were taken under taxation, revenue land. Read the report of William Bentinck, Governor, Madras Presidency of 1804. He writes in his report that I'm just quoting his words. We have rode this country so hard, it is their English. We have rode this country so hard that the people who were once prosperous have been reduced to lamentable poverty. once prosperous reduced to lamentable problem of poverty. 1810, there was a massive rebellion against the British at Vellore. Some of you would be knowing that. 51 years before, 1857, there was a massive rebellion against the British by the Indian soldiers at Vellore. 10th of July was their anniversary. I happened to be there. The British, when they prepared the report for the reasons for the rebellion, the revolt, the key point, they said the rebellion was not because of the frustration among the soldiers alone, but because of the high taxations and sudden decline in the status of economy of our people had created such a high degree of resentment in the society. The soldiers coming from that, they were equally, and all that needed was a small fuse here and there that led to the rebellion. So this stage of decline had happened in a short time. And then they brought through the Peel's Act, new system of education. Earlier, the education used to be in the indigenous languages, the native languages. Sanskrit was the language of a scholarship at the higher level, for the higher institutions all along the country, from Kashmir to Kamrup, which is Assam today. Down the line, it was the native languages people used to study. You'll be surprised, even they have got the gender, the number of girls coming, and number of girls, though it was not as many as the boys, but numbers were pretty impressive. I urge you all, some of you take interest, go deep into that and see what kind of country it was, what kind of people whose descendants we are. Over the years, they had done the damage, and we continued with the system of education where we started teaching people which are giving them knowledge which are not useful. And the result is where we are. Many countries which were behind us after independence, I'm talking about. After independence, by the time when India became independent, so many other countries also became independent. So many countries were not, they were not colonized, but still they were far behind, including China. Our level of growth, development with India and China was at par. The countries which were behind us, they left us way behind. Why? Because our citizens were not empowered with the knowledge and skill that would make them self-confident, that would make them more productive. Because a country's development and growth is directly linked with the growth and development of its citizenry. If citizens are not empowered with right knowledge, right skill, a few industries here and there will not lift the country. We will continue to be sinking in the quagmire. So what happened in 2020, the national education policy that came? This national education policy is not a reform because it has given a go-by to the old system. It is a fundamental paradigm change. It is a transformation. It is intended not to give just degrees to our students. It is intended to produce self-confident youth, self-confident to take on the world And the confidence derives from the useful knowledge and a skill that the student will have in the new system. And that is why this National Education Policy 2020 is so important. There are some reservations, naturally. When you bring about a change, it is natural. And most of us have come up in the old system of education. For us, believes that, after all, very difficult to find fault with the system in which I have grown up. Why? What is wrong with that? It has served me well. So resistance is natural, but I would urge the academicians, the senior faculty here, to take it with due seriousness. This is to transform this country. This country has suffered a long centuries of invasions, colonizations, and even after the British left, almost over 7 decades of being a third world country. A third world country. How shameful it is. No, I think this country, which was once at the top in the world, and that once was not 1,000 years back, that once was hardly 200 to 300 years back. This country does not deserve to be where it is today. It has to have, its destiny is to lead the world. And when I say to lead the world, what does it mean? It's not leading the world with just our economic growth, which of course it has to be there. Our industry, our agriculture, our development in information communication technology, cyber, all these domains which are coming up. Yes, we have to be way ahead of the others. But if we remain confined to only that, only the material prosperity and military strength, which of course we have to have, because military strength and prosperity is needed. Because as Shukra Niti says, Balino Vasaga Sarve Durbalasya Cha Shatruva. If you are weak, you are surrounded by enemies. If you are strong, people will listen to you. You have friends around. That is there. It has to be. But if we remain only that, it will be just an imitation of the West. There is something more to India. There is something more to India which Swami Vivekananda had thought of. He understood it, and which is there in our national education policy. And what is that is Indian system of knowledge. It is, no, Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda said what kind of India he would like to see. And what kind of India he dreamt of. And putting his own words, expressing his words, he said, I would like India whose muscles are of iron, whose sinews are of steel, but whose brain is Vedantic. And here comes Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. When we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, world is our family, it is not a political slogan. It is not just a diplomatic statement. It is built in our Sanatan Adhyatma. Sanatan Adhyatma, which was born during the time of Vedic period, during the period of Rig Veda, that there is one Parameshwara, one creator, and he permeates through the entire element of creation. So every one of us is an expression, the diverse, different expression of that very divinity. We are all part of a kutumbam, part of a family. That is how when our prayers, when we say our prayers, we say, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, Sarve santu niramaya, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashit dukh bhag bhavet. We don't say only, God help me. We say, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, Sarve santu niramaya. When we say we are all together, Sahana Vavatu, Sahano Bhurattu, Saviryam Karvavai, Tejasvinavaditamastu Va Vidusavai. These are our Vedic prayers, which tells about the world as a family, world as a kutumbam. But world will listen to you. This message, this eternal Sanatan message, only when you are capable of giving that message. This message has survived for thousands and thousands of years, but because we were weak, the message was not accepted. We were looked down upon. We have been trampled upon. We have been invaded. We have been colonized. No, we have to. When we talk about indigenous system of education, what it means is our epistemology. Those of you who have studied philosophy, you know that what is epistemology is. Of course, that is not the right way because there are not equivalent words in English or any European languages what we have in our ancient literature. But epistemology is a system of knowledge, theory of knowledge. In the European system, in the Western epistemology, it plays premium on intellect. Intellectual knowledge is supreme, nothing beyond. And that is why, based on that, what is called age of enlightenment, which Europe had, to which Karl Marx also was a product. Karl Marx, in his writing in 1853, in New York Daily Tribune, he was commissioned by the British government. He wrote, when he was writing Das Kapital, which took a long time, he needed money. And he wrote a series of essays in New York Daily Tribune, which subsequently became New York Times. There he says, British Empire is a necessary evil in India, and they have two tasks. The first task is total annihilation of the Indian social order. Because a society that worships cows and monkeys has no right to exist. It does not allow the sovereignty of individual. His belief was individual is sovereign of the nature. Individual is the master of human is the master of the nature, and the entire nature is at the service of the human being. And this is built in other theologies, which tells that man was created and the universe, the creation was for the satisfaction, for the happiness of the man. Whereas, so man is supreme. In our system, humans are one of the elements of creation. We do not claim superiority. We do not claim any special position. And that is why we are respectful to plant kingdom, to animal kingdom. We worship our rivers, we worship the plants, we worship the animals, we worship the elements. This belief, this system of knowledge, and in the Indian system of knowledge, it also says that a human being has three elements, three aspects: physical, intellectual, and spiritual. There are not many things in life that you cannot understand and explain through intellect. Intellect is a continuing growth process. You know something, and based on that, you judge something right or wrong. Your knowledge increases, your yardstick also changes. A spiritual is something which is intuitive, it is experiential. You listen to a melodious music, something happens to you. You feel exhilarated, you feel ecstatic, or you feel sad. Can you explain it through logic? No, you cannot. You cannot say that because of that note, it created such a reaction in my mind, and that's how it doesn't. There are a lot of things in life that people experience. They do not, for which there is no logical explanation. So, that is in a different domain. So while intellectual knowledge, what is called Adi Bhautik Buddhi, Buddhi, which is based on the 5 elements, Panchabhuta, is important. It is very important, but it's not complete. European system puts the premium sovereignty of intellect. In our Indian system, intellect is not sovereign. That is why our system has a lot of elements. Let us say yoga. There is a physical aspect of yoga, you do it and you remain healthy. But it's not just physical way. It's also a system of our spiritual evolution. In Indian system of knowledge, which gives due importance to intellect and intellectual growth, it also has a space for a spiritual growth. Things beyond that. This is here, our epistemology is fundamentally different, fundamentally in the sense that it is more comprehensive than the European epistemology. And that is why when we say about Indian system of knowledge, we need to bear in mind what it is. It is not about just an Indian system of knowledge, is just teaching in our native languages. Of course, it is important. But the philosophy, the core, the darshan behind it is that we are much larger than what our mind tells. We are part of the creation, not a master of it. This sense of being a master has created a very disastrous situation. We are facing all the climate crisis today. We see what is happening. We see unthinkable things are happening. The places which were desert, not a drop of rain is getting flooded. We know that there are so many island nations which are going to be submerged under the water in next 4 to 5 decades. This is happening. Why? It is because of the reckless exploitation of nature, believing that I am the master of it, little realizing that you are not the master. You have to maintain the balance existence. And that is why we see today in our country, there is a greater thrust on moving away from hydrocarbon. In 2016, when the Prime Minister set up the International Solar Alliance, many people, many countries, they mocked at it. Oh, it is an Indian exercise in gimmickry. Today, we have more than 100 countries as members because they have realized it. In India, in 2016, we had set up a target. We will be having 100 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2025, which we achieved in September 2021, almost halfway. More than 50 gigawatt we have started producing through solar energy. When we have so much energy giving with sun god, why do we have to burn the coal and create problem for the environment? Our whole approach, even agriculture, organic farming. We see there is a greater thrust on organic farming because this Mother Earth. Recently, Sadhguru had taken a campaign, Save the Soil. Essentially, the message is that our soil, mother is crying for relief. Excessive use of chemicals, wastage of food. No, it cannot, it is unsustainable. So when we say that we talk about climate preservation, it is built in our culture, it is built in our sanskar. There are still many places, in remote areas also, when the people go and cut a tree, before that they worship it. Say, I don't wish to, but I need it. That connect. We need to strengthen that. We need to make India, while intellectually strong, materially prosperous, militarily strong, intellectually superior, we have to make India also a spiritually evolved, in a position to take the leadership of the world, which is different from the way the European leadership, the Western leadership. Western leadership, what we see is so much clash and so much violence. When spirituality, this Bharatiya spirituality gets into it, when you look at it, the differences dissolve. Our differences that we have are apparent differences. It's like leaves of a tree. A tree has million leaves, no two leaves are alike, and yet they are all integrally connected with the tree. British also tried to divide our society, so many caste, creed, division that created. They created a new discipline called anthropology, just to segregate the people. There's no anthropology for white people. I think those of you who study anthropology, you should know. The father of modern anthropology, Claude Lévi-Strauss, who died up 100 years in 2008, French. Read his works, listen to his Smithsonian speech. How colonizers created this discipline of anthropology to study the colonized people by objectifying them, treated them as objects. Who wears which way they wear dhoti, sari, how they eat, how they sit, how they greet elders, how they treat. Putting all these things, they started clubbing the society. You are this, you are this, you are that. They forgot the continuum. It's like a rose. A rose has multiple petals. No two petals are alike. The choice is yours, whether you look at rose as a rose or look at rose from the perspective of petals, then there is no rose. That is what they did. And today we have a lot of people of the British legacy, they have left this. We keep saying that we belong to this race, we belong to that race. They have played havoc. We need to overcome all that. Friends, it is a moment of joy for this university. You are about 106-year-old, 1916 you were created, it was born. You have a great legacy which was born in the spirit of preserving Indianness, which was rooted in a belief and angst that the elements of Bharatiyata must be preserved. And thus you have a special responsibility to look at the national education policy in a broader perspective, understand the logic, the thinking that has gone behind it. It is not just like any other education policy. It is fundamentally different. It has a structural part of it. It explains about how the school education, preschool, school, and then higher it should be. But you must appreciate the thinking behind it. The thinking behind it, if you appreciate, perhaps you will be able to see much more light in it. I know you will do that. You will live up to the legacy of this university. This prestigious university will rise. Today, it has a potential for excellence. Soon, within a few years, I will be happy to hear it is not that potential has been realized. It has become a center of excellence. With this, I wish you all the best. This university, a great career, a great future, and all of you, a great career in your life. Thank you. Thank you very much.
First of all, we are thankful to the Honorable Governor for sharing his very valuable thoughts with warmth and understanding, leisurely, with wonderful magnanimity. We are extremely grateful to the Honorable Governor for taking us through the pages of history, because that is the only way to rectify the wrong path we were made to trace and to make course correction. This independence to carve our own path is the result of liberty we gained and decolonization process that set in. The Honorable Speaker also underlined the fact that India was in a very respectable position in terms of her achievements in so many spheres in the past. They say the 21st century is the century of India. There is so much buoyancy that we already feel that it is an achievable goal. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful reassurance on this auspicious occasion. Now, we come to the Close of the function, Professor R. Shivappa, the registrar of our university, specializes in social work and hence he is very outgoing. His long-standing association with progressive intellectuals of our land has given him a proper perspective regarding the balanced development of our society. Professor Shivappa is acutely aware of the necessity of higher learning percolating to the rural masses. He has consistently marshaled his research in that direction. Now I call upon Professor Shivappa, the registrar, to propose a vote of thanks.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನಾ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆ ಅಂಗವಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಬಹಳ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಾಕ್ಷೀಕರಿಸಿದಿರಿ. ಭಾರತದ ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಮಾನ್ಯ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರ ಮಾತುಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. Today we witnessed a original thinker of India, sir. We really enlightened, you really enlightened us by speaking different subjects of concern. You have appreciated the efforts of the then kings of Mysore, especially Mummadi Krishnaraj Wadiyar, Nalwadi Krishnaraj Wadiyar, the rich history of the university, and you have highlighted the Britishers' role in killing of our Indian systems, and also what role India has played during these difficult times. And today, what needs to be done from all angles, especially from the point of view of growth, development, and also seeking knowledge on all aspects. And the kind of knowledge which we require today, you have really highlighted, and you have really detailed out the European system, their strategies, dividing the Indian people during that time, and also the bunch of informations and other things which have spoiled the original Indian system. And you said really the producing degree holders is not enough in this kind of a great country. And you have really enlightened the galaxy of people who are here. And also the Indian education system, especially the Gurukula system, you have really mentioned it in a very meaningful way. And later on, how India, just because of their trading and other their benefits, how they have spoiled the original Indian thinkers, and also they have rooted out the colonial rule, what role they have played in India. All these points you have highlighted, sir. Really, I'm personally benefited a lot, and extremely happy that our Honorable Vice Chancellor is able to bring you here. And he was telling to all of us when you delivered a lecture in Coimbatore with all the vice chancellors, and many vice chancellors also here, our ex-vice chancellor, Professor Niranjana, and many people have participated during that occasion in Coimbatore, and it was a wonderful thing. And today you have shown us the path and how we should travel in this knowledge-seeking era. So I'm on behalf of the university, on behalf of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, on behalf of our syndicate, academic council, deans, and all the teaching fraternity, non-teaching fraternity, and whole Mysore and from Karnataka, I heartfelt thanks to you for having come here and also delivered a great lecture, sir. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, as a token of respect and gratitude, we would like to honor you Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Tamil Nadu is really great and lucky to have you as a governor. And it's a really happy that you are with us today on this historical occasion, sir. Thank you very much. ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಯದುವಂಶದ ರಾಜರು ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಉತ್ತರಾಧಿಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು 450-500 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಗೂ ಮಿಗಿಲಾಗಿ ಮೈಸೂರನ್ನ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಪ್ರಜ್ಞಾವಂತಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದಂತ ಯದುವಂಶ ರಾಜರು ಇಡೀ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಜಾಪ್ರಭುತ್ವದ ಬೀಜಗಳನ್ನ ಬಿತ್ತಿದ ಮೊದಲ ರಾಜ ಯಾರು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಯದುವಂಶದ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಅಂತಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರ್ವ ಸಮಾನರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ತಳ ಸಮುದಾಯದ ಜನರು, ಮೇಲ್ವರ್ಗದ ಜನರು, ಸಂಗೀತ, ಕಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಮೊದಲ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಗಳನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟಂತ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರಿನ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೆಮ್ಮೆಯಿಂದ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅನೇಕ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ KRS ಡ್ಯಾಮ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ವೆಲ್ಫೇರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಮತ್ತು ಅನೇಕ ಒಂದು ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತಿಕೆಯ ಆ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಇಡೀ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾನಗಳ ಜೊತೆ, ರಾಜ ಮಹಾರಾಜರುಗಳ ಜೊತೆ, ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಬೌದ್ಧಿಕ ಅನುಸಂಧಾನವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರಿಗೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕೊಡುಗೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂತವರ ಪ್ರತಿನಿಧಿಯಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರಿನ ಮಹಾರಾಜರ ಒಂದು ಕೊನೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಕ್ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗಿರುವಂತ ಯದುವಂಶದ ಮಹಾರಾಜರುಗಳು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೃಷ್ಣದತ್ತ ಚಾಮರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಮುಮ್ಮಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ ಅವರು ಬಿತ್ತಿದ ಬೀಜ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾಲ್ವಡಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣರಾಜ ಒಡೆಯರ್ಗಿಂತ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇದ್ದಂತವ್ರು ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಇದನ್ನ ಅವರು ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಬೀಜನವನ್ನ, ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಘನೋದ್ದೇಶಗಳನ್ನ ಈಡೇರಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂದ್ರು. ಅಂತವ್ರು ಇವತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಸರ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾನ್ಯ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿವಸ ನಾವು ಪೇಪರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಟಿವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಸೆನ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಆದಂತ, ಹೈಲಿ ರೆಡ್, ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜಬಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಆದಂತವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದ ಕಾಳಜಿಯನ್ನ, ಪ್ರೀತಿಯನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪನಾ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆಯ ಅಂಗವಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಬಂದು ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಮಾತನಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಮಾನ್ಯ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿ, ನಾನ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಹೃದಯಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ, ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಯದುವಂಶ ಕೃಷ್ಣದತ್ತ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ವಿಶೇಷ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಗವರ್ನರ್ ಅವರ ಜೊತೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಗವರ್ನರ್ ಅವರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರು ಮುಂದೆ ಆಸೀನರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ಮೈಸೂರಿನ ಜನತೆಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂತ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಮತ್ತು ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ವೈಟೆಡ್ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇವತ್ತಿಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Officers of the university, honorable syndicate members, honorable academic council members, all deans of the different faculties, chairmen of different departments, directors of all the PG centers, professors of all the departments, guest faculties, research scholars, students of PG, UG, and all my beloved non-teaching staff and the media friends, all are here. So I'm extremely happy that you all have made it successful. This is a remarkable, memorable day. So and ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಾಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ ಇವತ್ತು ನಿವೃತ್ತಿಗೊಂಡು ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಬರುವ ಪರವಾಗಿ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯನ್ನ, ಆಸ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿರುವಂತ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಸಿ ನಾಗಣ್ಣ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾನ್ಯ ಕುಲಪತಿಗಳ ಆಪ್ತ ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸಿ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವಿದಾಯ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Thank you, Professor Shivappa, for proposing a vote of thanks. Now I request the students of the University of Fine Arts College to sing the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे थैंक यू
ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಗಣ್ಯರು ಸಭಾಂಗಣದಿಂದ ನಿರ್ಗಮಿಸುವವರೆಗೆ ತಾವು ಸಹಕರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಭಾಸದರನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.